Hello and welcome to the EFL Fantasy League show, where we are going to be looking back at week 22, kind of looking back at week 21 because we were both slack and didn't record over Christmas, mainly because wrong side, that guy was busy. Yep. I mean, I'm equally as to blame. Now, it's been quite an interesting couple of weeks because we had the triple game week. And we haven't got our teams to show you for that, although technically we have, but we'll come on to that in a moment. But the triple game week between you and I still had my captainship. You didn't. And it was quite remarkable, wasn't it? That in the end, it came down to...
Was it a single point?
1 point.
1 point.
There was a 1 point difference. And the difference really was Ethan Arahan being sent off at Bolton, because if he hadn't been sent off, even if he had done nothing other than turn up for the game against Rotherham United, I would have got 2 points for him and I would have won. And I know shoulda, woulda, coulda, but for you, it wasn't just a victory, but it was also a moral victory because I had my captainship, which is funny because when you played your captainship earlier in the season, I won that week.
You did, yeah. So it turns out it's worthless, isn't it? That captainship. But no, I was delighted. I'm not going to say I was disappointed with the points haul. The points haul was fine. I was hoping it would be higher in terms of the overall standings. But yeah, then the most important thing, as we've said ever since day dot on this podcast or / show, is we're playing against each other, and whether you win by 50 points in 1 week or by 1 point in 1 week, it counts as a victory in the overall scoreboard. So obviously I was absolutely delighted. Now, one reason we didn't record between Christmas and New Year is because we couldn't. The game weeks were active, weren't they? So we did record one, I think, just before Christmas to share our teams for the triple game week. And then there were 3 matches that didn't expire until New Year's Day. And what happened after that, though, is both you and I forgot initially, didn't we, that Bromley and AFC, no, was it Wimbledon? I can't remember who it was now. Bromley's match. So. They were playing on the Thursday evening, and so it was literally just the Thursday that you had a chance to pick your team without changing it before the game week started, because there was a match on the Wednesday night as well. And neither of us realised. So the people that were on it and are clearly far better at this game than we are, got that sorted and scored some really, really big points. We were then thought, well, we'll get something sorted on Friday afternoon, sat down to get my team sorted.
No, I'm going to stop you there because I did Friday morning because I was on it.
Yes, okay. Gary did it before I did because we said we still got a chance to do it. We won't be able to pick the teams from that played last night, but we can still record a show and pick a team. And I went on to do it just after 12 o'clock. Now, I don't know if there is a 12 o'clock cutoff or if it was just a bug my end, but I was unable to edit my team. It just wouldn't let me do it as punishment for being smug, winning by 1 point, and as punishment for forgetting the deadline first time round. So what that meant is my team stayed the same as it was for the triple game week.
Which technically was cheating. Why was it cheating, Chris?
Well, because I won the triple game week, which I did by 1 point. That meant I would have gone 3 points ahead in the overall scoreboard, and therefore should have been subject to a 1% club week. Because I was unable to change my team through, let's be honest, my own fault and ignorance. I suppose I cheated because I had selected players who were selected by more than 1% of the player base. However, my personal feelings on this is that it's punishment enough not being able to actually pick your team kind of bespoke for the game week ahead. I suppose this is where we can do the YouTube-y thing and ask for interaction in the comments from people on whether you think I should be allowed that as my punishment or whether I should resort back to the 1% rule for next week, regardless of the outcome this week.
Now, if you win this week, you will then be 3 ahead. So you would go to 1% anyway. So the question is not whether you would have to go to the 1% rule, but whether actually, if you win this week, you have to go to the 0.5% rule? That's gonna be the question, because otherwise I could just, if I got to a 1% week and I've got a team of high performers, because it is a team of relatively high performers. I'm looking through your team now, and the 3 defenders there that scored 40 points. I don't think you could have picked any of those, even though you have lost this week. So we'll see. In the comments, what should Chris's punishment be? Is it punishment enough that he was slack and missed it and lost the week? Or because he should have been on 1%, should there be some sort of retrospective punishment? You are the FA. Chris is Wigan, Bolton, Reading. What
Powerless.
will you choose? Right, let's have a look at the winning team from this week. So game week 22. It wasn't a brilliantly proud week, if I'm honest, for me, because I still took advantage of the double game week. I was able to pick players from Huddersfield and Wickham. And I still only scored 74 points. Now, there are 2 massive letdowns here. I am cursed. We have agreed on that, haven't we? That I am cursed when it comes to
reluctantly, I think there is something going on here that's a bit witchcrafty.
So Finn has scored something like 1,000 points every week. I haven't picked him. I pick him and he gets 2 points. I think Jatta had scored in literally every game over Christmas. I pick him. He goes off injured and McGoldrick gets 2. So they kind of let me down. Across the back, I was looking really at the double game week players. Lowe, Leahy and Wiles. I mean, to be fair, Lee's overall return for 7 points isn't great. It really is Joe Lowe who's done me a solid here with 20. Johansson, decent enough on 7. Down at the bottom, had to pick Wickham and Huddersfield because it was just an opportunity to score a few extra points. So 74 points from my team. It was selected in good faith. It all went down to the wire, and it was quite exciting, wasn't it? Because on the night Huddersfield played Wickham with 10 minutes left, you and I were literally messaging going, there's 2 points in it. Like a booking or a goal either way would have put you in control. And then there would have been some serious repercussions regarding your cheating. But there wasn't. Luckily, Leahy and Wiles, I think, were taken off. So it was literally just Joe Lowe I had on. There was no additional goal. 74 points. Gary gets his 9th win of the game. This is the team that Chris has now had for 4 matches.
Yeah, true. Now, two game weeks, 4 actual matches. Yes.
There is no way that Mitchell O'Connor, Dimitri or Signs would have been available to you under the 1% rule.
Or no, I think almost every one of those wouldn't be available. Maybe Joe Whitworth potentially, maybe not. I'm not sure. But yeah, none of them I don't think are available for the 1% rule. So yeah. If you're looking at that as cheating, then I suppose it is. But it was accidental cheating because I wanted to pick my team. I am pleased you won this week though, because I would have felt a bit guilty. It would have been. I say slightly guilty. I would have laughed a lot if I'd won by not actually picking a team. But like you say, there are still kind of consistent high performing players here, so it's not like I had a team of nobodies. 72 points with players that only played once isn't bad, to be honest. But
it's good.
Radoni and Azaz in the midfield there didn't do too well. Defenders did perform well. Booker Science got back in some decent points after, despite being the league's top goal scorer, haven't actually scored that many points recently.
Well, you know what that is?
Because you picked him.
Because I've been picking him. I had him for about 3 weeks in a row, and he didn't do anything. I've dropped him. Of course, he's going to score.
What I would like to say is, in little reference to a bit of a callback from our episode before Christmas, when we selected the teams for the triple game week, Salford City won all 3 of their matches over Christmas, and I said, and I'm really proud of that. I said there'll be one team that you're not massively expecting, that hasn't been pulling up any trees over the season so far, will likely be the team that wins all 3 of their Christmas fixtures. The teams you expect to normally drop some. And I'm delighted that Salford did, just as a little pat on my back there. And they got me some points this weekend as well. They've now won 5 on the bounce, I think, Salford City. Well, so they are very much on the rise.
They've won 8 of their last 9 games, all to 0.
That's a hell of a run, isn't it? Hell of a run. Yeah. So fair play to them and fair play to me for picking them. But yeah, so those factors did mean that it went down to the wire, went down to that Tuesday night fixture between Huddersfield and Wickham. But rightly so, the person that actually picked his team this week won in yourself. So credit where credit is due. You made the effort. You got on it earlier than I did. and a justified victory. I cannot argue.
Which is unusual because I don't normally get up till 9 o'clock. So getting on it early was quite
And
good.
I normally argue.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Who should people have picked this week, Chris?
Yes. Well, some interesting ones here. Goalkeeper, Jacob Chapman, 2 clean sheets for Huddersfield Town, 18 points. The highest individual scoring goalkeeper that just played in one match was Ben Killip of Barnsley, 3-0 win versus Barnsley. Clean sheet, of course, always helps with goalkeepers, but also made 7 saves in that game as well. Defenders, we have got with 20 points, Brodie Spencer of Huddersfield Town. Again, 2 clean sheets helps when you've got defenders scoring back-to-back clean sheets. You're going to score highly, but in individual matches, we have got a tie on 14 points between Jamie Knight-Labelle and Cameron Norman, both scoring 14. Cameron Norman of Tranmere, interestingly, got 14 points without Tranmere actually getting a clean sheet. They conceded a goal. There was lots of clearances and tackles, headers, etc. Jamie Knight-Labelle scored a goal in one of his games, which helps, and a few clearances, tackles, etc. Sorry, the other way around. Labelle scored his points without a clean sheet. Norman did have a clean sheet. Midfield and forwards, though, no players featuring here that played in 2 matches. We have got Jack Lancaster of Crewe, scored 15 points for as a midfielder, 2 assists and a goal in a 4-1 win versus Bromley. And last but not least, cheat code, I think, of League 2 when he's on form, David McGoldrick scored both goals in a 2-0 win for Notts County versus Swindon. Scored himself 14 points for his endeavours.
Of course he did, because I picked the other one. So yeah, why would he not? why would McGoldrick not score? I can guarantee you McGoldrick won't score 14 points this week because I've picked him. Shall we have a look at our teams? We're getting through this quite quickly at the minute, aren't we? Considering we're on 2 weeks. So as I was winner, we'll go through my team first. And unfortunately, really, we should have had some sort of challenge this week because our teams are so remarkably similar, but there are so few games with it being FA Cup week. So there are marginal wins. I thought I picked 1 or 2 marginal wins, but we shall see. So this is my team this week. Now, it took me a while while I was going through to pick. I have had Mr. Goodman before for Wimbledon. I fancy them at home. I fancy a clean sheet. 2 of the back 3 pick themselves anyway, don't they? Mickey Demetriou and Carl Piergianni. We saw you and I both saw Piergianni firsthand on New Year's Day, on Saturday. He just wins everything. 7 of his 8 duels. I don't like him. My hair looks a little bit Piergianni-ish actually today. I was just thinking that when I looked in now, I need a haircut, as he does. But Mickey Demetriou, you talk about cheat codes. He is a cheat code, and they're away at Swindon, which I fancy him to be heavily, heavily involved. I then have just played percentages really with Mr. Higham. Portsmouth at home. Blackburn have been, they're up there. They're challenging. Higham is particularly scoring highly in the championship list. So I've really, with limited people to pick from, because the potential really would be for me to pick Paudie O'Connor there. They're my regular back kind of 3, maybe with Max Cleworth as well. So I've tried to think outside the box a little bit and go with, I think it's Dominic, isn't it? Dominic Higham. In midfield, I have had Mr. Evans in there on 5 or 6 occasions and then taken him out. And he's still consistently scoring well for Blackpool. The Cambridge at home, we know Cambridge are poor. Blackpool are a decent side when they're on it. He's somebody that gets interceptions. He's somebody that's involved an awful lot. He's like an Ethan Arahan style figure, I think, for Blackpool. I'm not going to risk on Arahan again after being burned over Christmas by a single point. So I've finally gone for Evans. I've finally plumped for him. I don't think I've actually picked him any other week. I think I've just put him in my drafts and then got rid. And as I said to you a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to start standing by my draft. This was my second draft. It differs for about 4 players from my first draft, but there we go. And then I've gone for Davis Keeler-Dunn. And this was a late substitution for me. It was my original draft didn't have him in. And I haven't got my original draft to hand. And then at last minute, I thought, you know what? I'm going to think outside the box here. and I've never picked him before either. It'll make a difference. Chris isn't likely to pick him because he hasn't picked him before. So that feels like a good pick to me. I did originally have Chuck Batadze in that position.
Yeah, he's was an early season favourite of yours, wasn't he? And it has, in fits and starts, scored really highly, but hasn't been massively consistent, just like Watford, really. He's a very talented footballer.
Yep, he is. Now, my first draft didn't have David McGoldrick in. I had Matty Stevens. And the funny story, and I should have known anyway, I was doing an article earlier on AFC Wimbledon for the Real EFL, and it popped up that they signed Matty Stevens from Forest Green. And when I went back into my team, I looked at it and thought, I can't have a former Forest Green player in there. I despise that shithouse club. And that's why I dropped him. And also, so I'd actually got Alex Bass in goal and Matty Stevens up front. So I'd gone Wimbledon, Notts County. But then when I found out that Jatta went off injured on Saturday, the likelihood, therefore, is that McGoldrick is absolutely going to be the focal point of Notts County's attack. Hence, putting him in. I then didn't want to double up on Notts County at either sides of the field because it's against Grimsby, and Grimsby always let me down, going for Goodman. So that's how I've kind of ended up at that position. At the bottom, I fancy Walsall. I think they're a great side. I think they are a team that Lincoln will play next season. I think they're coming up. Tranmere or not, I fancy them for the win. I can see it being a 7-pointer, and same with Blackburn as well. And I have Blackburn are the only ones there that I've doubled up on a little bit, but I do fancy Blackburn to win 2-0. So I fancy a clean sheet, and I fancy them to get some points. I'm looking at that. I think there's a solid 70 points in there for me this week. Now
that's a bold claim. Clip that up, someone. This is just the editing, isn't it?
Yeah. And nobody will clip it up because it's just a little tiny box up there. Look, so it's not worth clipping up. Now, at this point, normally you go through my team and say what you think, but let's go through your team, shall we?
Can I say something first, please, on your team? Because this is my team. Lots of similarities. We'll touch on this in a moment. I want to touch on Blackburn Rovers because you've backed them, and this is also, since we're kind of making good time here, a little bit of a shameless plug as well. Because myself and a good friend of both of ours, Charlie Beeston, we have recently started recording a new podcast called the EFL Hub, and we released our New Year's podcast yesterday. Now, what we did on this podcast is we had a look at the current standings in the league, and we picked a team from each of the Championship, League One and League Two. We picked 3 teams. One team that we were just were kind of like the surprise package from that division that are kind of in a place that we weren't expecting them to be. Sometimes that's positive, sometimes it's negative. One team that we can see slipping down the table as the season progresses, and one team that we can see rising the table when the season progresses. Now, this could come back to bite me in the arse, but my biggest fallers from the Championship, or predicted biggest fallers from the Championship for the rest of this season, is Blackburn Rovers. So a lot of the underlying metrics suggest that they're maybe in a slightly false position. They're playing Portsmouth at home, of course, so maybe this isn't the week to bring this up. But that's the only team you've doubled up on, so I thought it was worth referencing. I think I'm surprised that that's who you picked for that reason. I appreciate they're playing Portsmouth, who are down there, but I don't think it's as simple as 7th place versus 20-somethings that Portsmouth are. I think there might be a little bit of variation in there.
I think Portsmouth have played 11 or 12 away games this season, and they've lost 8 or 9 and drawn 3 with no wins.
Yeah, you could well be successful here. I'm not saying it's not. It could be a good point scoring thing. But I wanted to plug the podcast, to be honest. So there you go, a little plug. Portsmouth. But also, Blackburn maybe a little bit better and are performing a little bit better in the league table than maybe their actual performances suggest that they should.
Portsmouth have failed to score in 3 of their last 4 home games.
Yeah, so
away games. Go on then. Let's go back. Let's go to your team, and because literally there are 3 differences.
Yes, there are. So we'll go through the things that are similar. Goalkeeper's the same. 2 of the back 3 are the same. Both central midfielders are the same, and we both picked Walsall. Now, Walsall is a really interesting team, aren't they? Because as it stands, champions elect in League 2, 10 points clear, legitimately as well. All their performance metrics suggest that they are going to stay there. They are really, really strong. Nathan Lowe obviously helping that quite a lot from an attacking point of view. Mr. Simkin in goal also playing quite a big role there as well. Although not the most busy goalkeeper, but of course also keep a lot of clean sheets, don't give away many high quality chances. I wanted to put a Walsall player in here. Originally put Simkin in goal. And then I realised and read that both Simkin and Lowe have been back at Stoke training this week under new manager Mark Robbins. So I just thought in the back of my mind, there is a possibility that one, if not both of them, could be recalled potentially. So I didn't dare put them in. And also, I picked in our podcast with Charlie, I picked Tranmere as the biggest risers in League Two. I think there's a few underlying things there that I won't bore everyone with now. I don't necessarily think they're going to win this game, but I think they'll improve. So I think Walsall have got enough to get past Tranmere, but Tranmere don't give up actually that many high quality chances. I think it could be a tight game. I don't think Tranmere will score. So I want to pick Walsall. I think they've still got enough to get the win, but I didn't dare pick one of their kind of high-performing players because of those kind of variables. So that's why I went with Walsall at the bottom. And I was really conscious just not to double up anywhere this time. So just wanted to have as many individual opportunities of scoring points this week. So yeah, again, Goodman in goal. Dimitri Piergianni, almost obvious. Went for Tom Lees at Huddersfield in my back three. Playing away at Shrewsbury, who are playing a very, very direct style as expected under Gareth Ainsworth. They are a much improved team, by the way, Shrewsbury Town, particularly at home. Beat Lincoln on Boxing Day, have had a couple of draws in there as well. But they've been in every game, which, in all honesty, they haven't been for the majority of the season. So it's not going to be an easy game for Huddersfield. But Lees is going to be very, very busy in regard to clearances. And he's scored really well recently over the last few games. So he was one that I almost captained him actually, and then I thought, no, stop being silly, just captain the almost certainty there that's going to guarantee lots and lots of clearances in Piergianni. Lee Evans again, really, really high scoring player, really consistent player, by far the most key passes in League One, something like 15 more key passes than anyone else. Now the big issue for Blackpool in terms of results recently is that they've not had any centre forwards. So passes and assists haven't been happening because they really haven't had anyone on the end of them. But they've got forwards again now. So I almost picked Carl Joseph and doubled up on Blackpool. And I thought, as much as I think Blackpool will really improve this season and Cambridge are rubbish, I can't double up on a team that's that low down in the league. Keeler Dunn, picked him for the same reasons you did, performed really well recently. Northampton are poor, despite being under new management, concede a lot of chances. Barnsley are improving, ever improving. And Keeler Dunn is a fixture of their kind of attacking play. Scores well for key passes, scores well for assists, goals, etc. as well from midfield. Port Vale playing Barrow. Port Vale, albeit not as dominant as they were earlier in the season, I think are stronger than Barrow. Barrow very inconsistent at the moment. So I picked them at the bottom. And then I suppose a little bit of a wild card in Will Evans. That was the last player I picked. So I kind of settled on everyone else, settled on the teams, and wanted to pick a centre forward from somebody else. So the best option I could think of was Will Evans at Mansfield. Mansfield, inconsistent, but tend to have plenty of goals in their games. Certainly in terms of chances, they tend to create a fair few. Will Evans is an almost ever present in their team in terms of the starting line that does come off regularly, but tends to start most games. Exeter were in our podcast Charlie's biggest fallers, and he kind of won me over in explaining the reason why they're kind of overperforming a lot of their underlying numbers, which made me kind of think they're not quite as good as maybe I thought they were. Mansfield tend to be quite open, but tend to create quite a lot of chances. Maybe Will Evans will capitalise on that as he did against Peterborough recently. So there we are.
Very interesting. Well, there's not a lot really to say apart from it's basically Evans versus McGoldrick, Lees versus Higham, and Port Vale versus Blackburn.
Yeah, that is exactly it.
Although you've captained Piergianni and I've captained Dimitri.
Yes, yeah. that could swing it, because they're both going to be involved. Who's going to be involved the most?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Right. Well, I think it's probably best for us to wrap up there because although it's 5 minutes early, you're getting picked up in 17 minutes to come here and play pool against me anyway. So you've got to get something to eat. So
Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
it's going to be a little bit tight. So it is now 11:09. Chris may have punishment come in. Who knows? That's up to you guys watching. But for now, thank you for watching the podcast that we probably enjoy making more than you enjoy watching, and we will try and be consistent in the new year, but there is no way on hell on this earth that in the next Thursday I'm going to record 3 podcasts back to back because I've literally been sitting here for 3 hours and now I'm going to have to edit them while I'm playing pool, and that ain't going to happen. But still, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next week. Bye bye.